Hey everyone, I'm Mono Scaling. I'm here to guide you today. If you use this video to drift off to sleep, please tap like, hit subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now get comfortable and relax. My name is Allison James. I need to write this down while I still remember who I am. We arrived at Lake Powell in late September. The RV park was mostly empty, just a handful of retirees in massive motorhomes and a few younger couples in converted vans. My friend Rachel had found the spot online, one of those last-minute bookings when you just need to get away from your life for a while. She'd been going through a divorce. I'd been going through something harder to name. The site we got was right on the water, Site 14, though the little wooden post with the number had fallen over and someone had just leaned it against a rock. Rachel backed her RV in while I directed, and we set up in about an hour. Leveling blocks, water hookup, the whole routine. We'd done this trip before. Same RV, same routine. 3 years ago, before either of our lives had gotten complicated. God, I forgot how quiet it is out here, Rachel said that first evening. We were sitting in lawn chairs between the RV and the water, drinking cheap wine from proper glasses because Rachel insisted. The sun was setting over the red rocks across the lake, and she was right. It was quiet. Not silent, but the kind of quiet where you notice the water lapping against the shore and the occasional bird. I took a picture of the sunset with my phone. When I looked at it after, Rachel wasn't in the frame even though she'd been sitting right next to me. Just my chair and the empty one beside it. I figured it was the angle or the light. I didn't mention it. That night, I washed my face in the RV's tiny bathroom. The mirror was one of those cheap ones that come standard, a little warped at the edges. When I looked up from splashing water on my face, I saw myself blink. Then, I blinked. It took me a second to process what had just happened, that my reflection had blinked a fraction of a second before I did. I stood there with water dripping off my chin, staring at myself. I blinked again, deliberately. My reflection blinked at the same time. I did it again. Same time. I decided I was tired and probably a little drunk. Rachel knocked on the door. "You fall in?" "Just tired," I said. The next morning I walked down to the water while Rachel made coffee. Lake Powell is strange if you've never been there. It's a reservoir, man-made. And the red rock formations that used to be canyon walls now rise up out of blue water, like something from another planet. The water level was low. It had been low for years, and you could see the bathtub ring of white mineral deposits on the rocks marking where it used to be. I knelt by the water's edge. It was perfectly still, reflecting the cloudless sky. I could see my face clearly in the surface. I leaned closer. My reflection leaned closer. I smiled. My reflection smiled. No, wait. My reflection smiled first. Just barely. Maybe a tenth of a second. But I saw it happen. The corners of my mouth in the water turned up, and then my actual mouth followed. I stood up fast enough that I got dizzy. The water rippled and my face disappeared. "Coffee's ready," Rachel called from the RV. I didn't tell her about the reflection. What would I say? That I thought my reflection was moving wrong? She'd think the isolation was already getting to me. We spent that day like we'd planned, hiking one of the shorter trails, swimming in a cove away from the marina, making sandwiches on the RV's tiny counter, reading our books in the lawn chairs, normal vacation things. Rachel talked about her ex-husband and I made the appropriate noises. I talked about my job, and she did the same. We didn't talk about anything real. Around 3 in the afternoon, Rachel said she was going to take a shower at the campground facilities. The RV had a shower, but it was cramped and the water heater was small. She grabbed her toiletry bag and flip-flops and headed up the gravel road toward the main building. I stayed at the site, reading. After about 20 minutes, I looked up from my book and saw someone standing at the water's edge. At first I thought it was another camper, but then I realized it looked like me. Same height, same build, same clothes, same brown hair pulled back in a ponytail. I stood up from my chair. The figure at the water stood up too, but she'd been crouching, not sitting. I took a step forward. She took a step back. I stopped. She stopped. My heart was doing something funny in my chest. I called out, "Hello?" The figure didn't respond. She just stood there, about 30 feet away at the very edge where the water met the shore. I took another step toward her. She took another step back, and now she was ankle deep in the water. I walked faster. She walked backward faster, going deeper into the lake. Water up to her knees, then her thighs. I started running. She moved backward like she was on a track, smooth and fast, and by the time I reached the shore, she was already shoulder deep. Then her head went under. I stood there breathing hard, staring at the spot where she'd disappeared. The water was completely calm. No ripples, no bubbles, nothing. Like she'd never been there at all. Rachel came back 45 minutes later, her hair wet from the shower. I was still sitting at the water's edge. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just thinking." That night, Rachel made pasta on the RV's 2-burner stove. We ate at the little dinette table that converted into one of the beds. She told me about a guy she'd been seeing, someone from her gym. I told her I thought that was good, that she should go for it. I didn't tell her about the woman in the water. After dinner, I went to brush my teeth. The bathroom mirror was the same cheap, slightly warped thing. I looked at my reflection while I brushed. My reflection looked back. When I was done, I rinsed my mouth and looked up again. My reflection was smiling. I wasn't. I stared at myself, at her, at it. The smile stayed on her face, my face, for a good 3 seconds before my actual mouth started to move, pulling up into the same expression. It felt wrong, like my face was being puppeted. I reached up and touched my cheek. My reflection reached up and touched her cheek at the same time, but I could have sworn the movement started in the mirror first. "Allison," Rachel called from outside the bathroom. "You okay in there?" I realized I'd been standing there for I don't know how long. "Fine," I said, "just tired." But I wasn't fine. I knew I wasn't fine. I locked myself in the tiny bathroom and sat on the closed toilet lid and tried to think. I tried to remember if I'd been having dizzy spells, if I'd been more stressed than usual, if there was any rational explanation for what I was seeing. The thing was, I felt completely clear-headed. I wasn't drunk, I wasn't sick, I was just seeing things that shouldn't be possible. I went to bed that night in the converted dinette. Rachel took the overhead bunk. I lay there in the dark, listening to her breathe. The RV was parked facing the water, and through the window above my head I could see the moon reflecting on the surface of the lake. It was almost full. At some point I fell asleep. I dreamed I was underwater, looking up at the surface. Someone was standing on the shore looking down at me. It was me, but not me. She waved. I tried to wave back, but my arms moved slowly, sluggishly, like I really was underwater. Then she smiled, and I woke up. It was still dark. Rachel was snoring softly in the bunk above. I lay very still, trying to figure out what had woken me. Then I heard it, a soft tapping sound. Tap, tap, tap. Pause. Tap, tap, tap. It was coming from the window above my head. I turned over slowly and looked up. Someone was standing outside, tapping on the glass. Backlit by moonlight, I could see the silhouette of a head, shoulders, a hand raised, tapping with one finger. Tap, tap, tap. I couldn't see the face clearly, but I knew. I knew it was me out there. My reflection, my doppelganger, my whatever the hell it was, standing outside the RV in the middle of the night, tapping on my window. I should have screamed. I should have woken Rachel. Instead, I just stared at it, at her, at me. The tapping stopped. The silhouette stood there for a moment longer, then turned and walked away down toward the water. I watched until I couldn't see it anymore. I didn't go back to sleep. In the morning, Rachel asked if I'd slept okay. I said yes. She said I looked tired. I said I was fine. We had the same conversation we always had when one of us was lying. I checked outside the RV while Rachel made breakfast. The ground was sandy gravel, no footprints. The window showed no signs of anyone having touched it. I looked down at the water, perfectly calm in the early morning light. Nothing. "Hey," Rachel said from the doorway. "You sure you're okay? You seem off." Just didn't sleep well, I said. The mattress is lumpy. She accepted this because it was true. The mattress was lumpy. But we both knew that wasn't why I looked like hell. We decided to take the kayaks out that morning. We'd brought them strapped to the top of the RV, 2 cheap inflatable ones from Costco. We spent an hour pumping them up with the foot pump, then dragged them down to the water. You take the blue one, Rachel said. I'll take the red. The blue one had a small tear we'd patched last year. The red one was newer. I didn't argue. I dragged the blue kayak into the water and climbed in, wobbling as it settled under my weight. Rachel pushed off next to me. We paddled out toward the center of the cove where the water was deepest. The red rocks towered above us on both sides, and ahead the lake opened up into the main channel. It was peaceful. It should have been peaceful. I looked down into the water. It was clear enough that I could see my kayak's shadow on the rocks below, maybe 20 feet down. I could see my own reflection on the surface, distorted by the gentle movement of the water. I watched it. My reflection watched me. Then my reflection turned its head to the left, looking at something. I hadn't moved. I was staring straight down. "Rachel," I said. My voice sounded strange. "Yeah?" She was paddling ahead of me, not looking back. I watched my reflection. It was looking at Rachel now. I could see it clearly, even through the ripples, the angle of the head, the direction of the gaze. I forced myself to turn my actual head to the left, to look at Rachel. When I looked back down at the water, my reflection was facing forward again, matching me. "Nothing," I said. "Never mind." We paddled for another hour. I didn't look at the water again. Back at the campsite, Rachel said she wanted to take a nap. The sun had made her drowsy. I said I'd stay outside and read. She climbed into the RV and I heard the overhead bunk creak as she settled in. I didn't read. I sat in my lawn chair and stared at the water. After about 10 minutes, I saw something move in my peripheral vision. I turned my head slowly. There was someone standing in the water about 30 yards down the shore. Not in the water, standing on it, walking on the surface like it was solid ground. It was me. It was definitely me this time. Same clothes, my gray t-shirt, my khaki shorts, same ponytail. She was walking slowly, carefully, like she was testing each step, walking on water toward the RV, toward me. I stood up. She stopped. We looked at each other across the distance. Then she smiled. Not a normal smile, too wide, too many teeth. And she held it, that horrible smile, for 3 or 4 seconds before my own face started to move, pulling up into the same expression. I could feel my cheeks stretching. It hurt. I ran into the RV and locked the door. Rachel stirred in the bunk above. "What's wrong?" she mumbled. "Nothing," I said. "Thought I saw something. Go back to sleep." She did. I sat at the dinette table, shaking. After a while, I got up the courage to look out the window. The water was empty. No one walking on it. No one standing at the shore. Nothing. That evening, Rachel suggested we drive into Page to get dinner at a real restaurant. I agreed immediately. I needed to get away from the water, away from the RV, away from my own reflection. We drove the 40 minutes into town and ate at a Mexican place that was trying too hard to be authentic. The food was okay. We drank margaritas, and Rachel talked about her ex again, and I pretended to listen. Mostly I was looking at my reflection in the restaurant's windows, checking to see if it moved wrong. It didn't. It behaved. On the drive back, Rachel was quiet. Then she said, "Allison, are you using again?" I looked at her. "What?" "You're acting weird. Really weird. You keep spacing out. You look like you haven't slept in days. And just now you spent the whole dinner staring at the window like..." She trailed off. "Like you used to." I'd had a problem with pills a few years back. Nothing major, just enough to get scared and stop. But Rachel had been there for the worst of it, and she knew what that looked like. "I'm not using," and I said, "I promise." "Then what's going on?" I could have told her then. I should have. But what would I say? That my reflection was alive. that I'd seen myself walking on water, that something was happening to me that I couldn't explain. "I've just been stressed," I said. "Work stuff. I'll be fine." She didn't believe me. I could see it in the way she gripped the steering wheel a little tighter, the way her mouth pressed into a thin line. But she didn't push it. Back at the campsite, we went to bed early. Rachel climbed into her bunk. I lay in mine, staring at the ceiling. I could hear the water outside, gentle lapping sounds against the shore. Around midnight, Rachel climbed down from her bunk. I pretended to be asleep. She stood there for a moment, and I could feel her looking at me. Then she walked to the RV's door, opened it quietly, and went outside. I waited about 30 seconds, then got up and looked out the window. Rachel was standing at the water's edge, looking out at the lake, just standing there in her pajamas, perfectly still. I watched her for 5 minutes. She didn't move. Then slowly she walked into the water, not like someone going for a swim, just walking forward, fully clothed, until the water was up to her knees, her waist, her chest. I ran outside. "Rachel, what are you doing?" She stopped. The water was up to her shoulders. She turned to look at me, and in the moonlight I could see her face clearly. She was smiling, that same too-wide smile I'd seen on my reflection. "Rachel?" My voice cracked. She didn't say anything. She just stood there in the water, shoulders deep, smiling at me. I waded in. The water was cold, much colder than it had been during the day. By the time I reached Rachel, I was chest deep. I grabbed her arm. "Come on," I said. "Let's go back." She looked at me. Her eyes were wrong. I don't know how to explain it, but something about them was wrong. Like she was looking at me but not seeing me, or seeing something else where I should be. "Rachel, please." She blinked. When her eyes opened again, they were different, normal again. She looked confused. "What?" she started to say, then looked down at the water around us. "What am I doing?" "You were sleepwalking," I said. "Let's get you inside." I pulled her back to shore and into the RV. She was shaking. I grabbed towels and wrapped one around her, then sat her down at the dinette. "I don't sleepwalk," she said. "I've never sleepwalked in my life. First time for everything." She looked at me. "Did I say anything before you woke me up?" "No," I lied. "You were just standing there." But she had been smiling with my reflection's smile. I didn't tell her that part. Rachel changed into dry clothes and got back into her bunk. I lay in mine, listening to her breathe, wondering if she was really asleep or just pretending like I was. Every few minutes I'd look out the window at the water, half expecting to see her or me walking on its surface. Around 3 in the morning I heard Rachel get up again. This time I was ready. I sat up and saw her climbing down from the bunk, moving slowly, deliberately. Her eyes were open but unfocused. "Rachel," I said softly. She didn't respond. She walked to the door. I jumped up and grabbed her arm. "Rachel, stop." She turned to look at me. In the dim light from the RV's emergency lamp, I could see her face. She was smiling again. That smile. "Let go," she said. Her voice sounded wrong, flat, like someone doing a bad impression of Rachel. "No," I said. "You're not going out there." We stood like that for a moment, me holding her arm, her trying to pull away. Then she did something I didn't expect. She looked at the bathroom mirror behind me and her smile got wider. "She's waiting," Rachel said. I turned to look at the mirror. My reflection was there, smiling back at me. But I wasn't smiling. And then my reflection raised her hand and waved. Rachel waved back. I pulled Rachel away from the door, wrestled her back to the dinette, and held her there. She struggled, but not hard, like her heart wasn't in it. After a few minutes, the tension went out of her body and she slumped forward. "Allison?" she said in her normal voice. "What's happening?" "I don't know," I said. And I meant it. We sat there until the sun came up, neither of us sleeping. When it was light enough outside, I made coffee. We didn't talk about what had happened. What could we say? We should leave, I finally said. Today. Right now. Rachel looked at me over her coffee cup. Yeah, she said. Yeah, okay. We started packing up, unhooking the water, unplugging the electricity, folding up the lawn chairs. Rachel went inside to secure the cabinets and I started collapsing the awning. I was halfway done when I heard her scream. I ran inside. Rachel was standing in the bathroom doorway, pointing at the mirror. Look, she said. Look at it. I looked. The mirror showed the reflection of the bathroom behind Rachel, the sink, the shower, the tiny window. But it didn't show Rachel. Where she should have been was nothing. Just the bathroom reflected back empty. I moved next to her. My reflection appeared in the mirror. Rachel's didn't. Oh God, Rachel said. Oh God, what's happening to me? I pulled her out of the bathroom and closed the door. We stood in the main area of the RV, both of us shaking. We're leaving right now, I said. Right now. It took us 15 more minutes to finish packing. I kept checking on Rachel, making sure she was still herself. She was moving normally, talking normally, but she wouldn't look at any reflective surface. Not the windows, not the bathroom mirror, not even the shiny surface of the coffee pot. I was throwing the last of our gear into the storage compartments when I realized I hadn't seen Rachel for a few minutes. I called her name. No answer. I ran around the RV. She wasn't there. I looked down at the water. She was walking into it again, this time during daylight. Already waist deep. Rachel! I screamed. She kept walking. The water reached her chest, her neck. Then her head went under. I ran in after her. The water was clear, and I could see her under the surface, still walking forward, deeper into the lake. Her eyes were open. She was still smiling. I dove down and grabbed her. She didn't fight me this time. She just let me pull her back to the surface, back to shore. We collapsed on the gravel, both of us gasping. I could breathe, Rachel said. I was underwater and I could breathe. I looked at her. Water was dripping from her hair, her clothes. But she was right, she hadn't been drowning. She'd been walking on the lake bottom like she was taking a stroll through a park. Get in the RV, I said. Now. She did. I did. I climbed into the driver's seat and started the engine. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn the key. I put the RV in gear and started backing out of the sight. That's when I saw her. My reflection. Standing where the RV had been parked, watching us leave. She was waving goodbye. After a moment, I felt my own hand start to rise from the steering wheel, start to wave back. I grabbed it with my other hand and held it down. We drove. Rachel sat in the passenger seat, wrapped in a blanket, staring out the window. I kept checking the mirrors, the side mirrors, the rearview mirror, looking for her, looking for me. But all I saw was the road behind us getting farther away. We made it to the highway. Then Rachel said, "Allison, look." I looked where she was pointing, at the side mirror on the passenger side. My reflection was there, sitting in the driver's seat. But I was sitting in the driver's seat. The reflection showed me sitting in the passenger seat, where Rachel should have been. "Rachel," I said carefully, "check the other mirror. Tell me what you see." She looked at the driver's side mirror. "It's showing you driving," she said, "but it's showing me in your seat." We looked at each other. In each of the RV's mirrors, we were reflected in the wrong positions, swapped. "Keep driving," Rachel said. "Just keep driving." I did. We drove for 6 hours straight, stopping only for gas. Every time I looked in a mirror, something was wrong. Sometimes Rachel and I were swapped. Sometimes Rachel wasn't there at all. Sometimes there were two of me. The reflections were breaking down, becoming unreliable. By the time we reached Rachel's house in Phoenix, we weren't talking much. We unloaded the RV in silence. Rachel kept looking at her reflection in the windows of her house, checking to make sure it was still there. "Thank you," she said when we were done, "for pulling me out." "Of course," I said. She looked at me for a long moment. "Allison, you need to see someone. This isn't normal. None of this is normal." "I know," I said, but I didn't see anyone. What would I tell them? That my reflection had been trying to replace me? That I'd watched my best friend walk into a lake and breathe underwater? That something had started at Lake Powell and I didn't know if it had ended? I drove the RV back to my apartment. I parked it in the lot and went inside. I avoided mirrors for the rest of the day. When I absolutely had to look, to brush my teeth, to wash my face, I did it quickly, not really focusing on my reflection. That night, I dreamed I was underwater again. This time I was the one standing on the shore looking down at myself on the lake bottom. I waved. My underwater self waved back. Then she started walking up through the water, rising slowly, her hand reaching up toward the surface. I woke up before she broke through. It's been 3 weeks since Lake Powell. I haven't talked to Rachel. She texts me sometimes, short messages. How are you? Everything okay? I reply with fine or yes, and she doesn't push. I've started avoiding reflections entirely. I put a towel over the bathroom mirror. I don't look at store windows when I walk by. I turned my phone's screen black. It's easier this way. But last night I made a mistake. I was washing dishes and I looked down at the water in the sink. My face was reflected there, distorted by the suds and the movement of the water. And I saw myself smile before I smiled. I saw my reflection blink after I did. She's still there, still waiting. And I think I know what she wants. She wants to switch places with me. She wants to be real and make me the reflection. The thing is, I'm not sure it hasn't already happened. Maybe it happened at Lake Powell and I didn't realize it. Maybe I'm the reflection now, living in the real world through some kind of mistake or glitch. Maybe the reason Rachel's reflection disappeared is because Rachel was the reflection all along, and something was trying to correct the error. Or maybe none of this is real. Maybe I am using again and this is all some elaborate hallucination brought on by stress and pills and a guilty conscience. Maybe Rachel is fine and I'm the one who needs help. I don't know. I don't know anything anymore except that I can't look at my reflection without feeling like I'm looking at someone else. Someone who's wearing my face and learning how to be me. Someone who's getting better at it every day. Last week I ran into a colleague from work at the grocery store. She said I seemed different. More confident, she said. More like myself. That's what she said. More like yourself. I smiled and thanked her. I didn't tell her that I hadn't been smiling, that the smile had started on its own, spread across my face like something being painted on. I didn't tell her that sometimes I'll be doing something, making coffee, getting dressed, driving to work, and I'll suddenly realize that I'm watching myself do it. Like I'm the reflection, observing my own life from behind glass. Yesterday, I went back to Lake Powell. I don't know why. Maybe I thought I could fix it, whatever had been broken. Maybe I thought I could find an answer. I drove the RV to Site 14. The number sign was still fallen over. I parked in the same spot and walked down to the water. It was late afternoon, the sun low and orange. The surface of the lake was perfectly still. I knelt at the water's edge and looked at my reflection. It looked back at me. We stared at each other for a long time, me and this other version of myself. Then I reached down and touched the surface of the water. My reflection reached up and touched my finger from the other side. The water rippled. For just a moment I felt something, a pulling sensation, like being tugged gently downward. My reflection's finger pressed up against mine, and I could swear I felt the pressure through the water. I pulled my hand back, stood up, walked back to the RV. I sat inside as the sun set, watching the water through the window. When it was fully dark, I saw a figure standing at the shore. It could have been me. It could have been Rachel. It could have been anyone. I drove back to Phoenix that night. I haven't been back since. I'm writing this down because I need someone to know what happened. I need there to be some kind of record, even if no one believes it, even if I'm crazy, even if this is all just the story of a woman who couldn't tell the difference between herself and her reflection. Rachel called me yesterday. She said she's been having dreams. Dreams about water, about drowning, about standing on the lake bottom and breathing. She asked me if I'd been having them too. I lied. I said no. But the truth is, I have those dreams every night now, and every morning when I wake up I feel like I'm a little bit less myself, like something has been subtly changed, adjusted, corrected, like I'm slowly being replaced by someone who knows how to be me better than I do. Yesterday I looked in the mirror. I couldn't help it. I had to know. My reflection smiled at me. Then I smiled. I'm not sure which came first anymore. This morning I woke up and something felt different. Not wrong exactly, just different. I got out of bed and went to the bathroom. I looked in the mirror before I could stop myself. I was smiling. I've been smiling all day. I can't stop. Rachel just texted me. She wants to know if I want to go camping again. Back to Lake Powell. She says she feels like she needs to go back, like something is calling her there. I texted back yes before I realized I was doing it. My fingers moved on their own. I watched myself type the message and hit send. Then I watched myself smile. I'm going to go back. I don't think I have a choice. I don't think I've had a choice for a while now. If you're reading this and you go to Lake Powell, and you see someone who looks like me standing at the water's edge, don't talk to her. Don't go near her. Don't look at your reflection while you're there. And if you do look, and you see yourself blink a moment before you blink, or smile a moment before you smile, leave. Leave immediately. Don't go back. Don't try to understand it. Because I think I understand it now, and understanding doesn't help. Understanding just means you know exactly what's happening when you feel yourself being replaced, piece by piece, moment by moment, until you can't remember which one was real to begin with. We're leaving for Lake Powell tomorrow. Rachel just called. She sounded excited, more like her old self. She said it would be good for us. She said we could finally relax. I agreed with her. I heard myself agree. I watched my mouth form the words and heard my voice say them. And somewhere, deep down, in whatever part of me is still me, I wanted to scream at her to stay away, to never go back to that water. But I didn't. I just smiled. I'm still smiling now. I can't stop smiling. My name is Amanda Cole. This happened 3 months ago at a campground outside Sedona, Arizona, and I need to write it down before I forget the details. Not that I think I ever could forget, but my therapist says documentation helps with processing trauma. I'm not sure what I'm processing exactly. I'm not even sure what happened was real. I bought the RV in March after my divorce finalized. A 2015 Winnebago Mini Winnie, 25 feet, with a leak in the bathroom and a temperamental generator. I paid $12,000 for it, which was probably too much, but I needed to get out of Portland. My ex-husband got the house. I got Scout, my 3-year-old German Shepherd mix, and enough savings to last 6 months if I was careful. The plan was simple. Drive south, find work when I needed it, stay away from places that reminded me of David. I'd been a remote bookkeeper before the divorce, and I still had 2 clients who let me work from anywhere with Wi-Fi. It wasn't much, but it covered gas and campground fees. I'd been on the road for 6 weeks when I pulled into Desert Vista RV Park. It wasn't my first choice. I'd been aiming for a campground closer to town, but my GPS kept glitching, rerouting me in circles until I gave up and took the first place I saw off Highway 179. Desert Vista was tucked into a canyon about 15 miles from the main tourist areas. The woman at the office, maybe 60 with sun-damaged skin and turquoise jewelry, barely looked up when I paid for a week. "Spot 43, she said, sliding a map across the counter. "Water and electric hookups, dump stations by the entrance, Wi-Fi passwords on the sheet." The campground was half empty. I counted maybe 20 RVs spread across 50 spots, most of them clustered near the facilities building. Spot 43 was at the far end, backing up to a rocky hillside thick with scrub brush and juniper trees. I liked the privacy. Scout jumped out as soon as I opened the door, immediately marking territory around the picnic table. He's a good dog. Rescued him from a shelter 2 years ago, right after David and I bought the house. David never liked him much. Said Scout was too needy, too reactive. But Scout was the one thing in the divorce I fought for. I set up the RV, connected the hookups, extended the awning. The generator sputtered to life on the 3rd try. By the time I finished, the sun was setting behind the canyon walls, and the temperature had dropped 15 degrees. That's the thing about the desert in April. The days are warm, but the nights come fast and cold. I made dinner, heated up a can of soup on the 2-burner stove. Scout ate his kibble and then lay down by the door, which was his usual spot. I tried to connect to the Wi-Fi, but the signal was weak. I ended up using my phone as a hotspot to check email. Nothing important. One of my clients needed an invoice revision, which I'd handle in the morning. Around 9, I shut off the lights and got ready for bed. The RV has a bedroom in the back, separated from the main cabin by a pocket door that doesn't close right. I usually leave it open anyway. Scout likes to patrol at night, moving between the front and back, checking the windows. That's when I first noticed the shadows. I was lying in bed, scrolling through my phone when Scout started growling. Not his usual alert bark when someone walks past the RV. A low, continuous growl that made the hair on my neck stand up. I looked over and saw him staring at the wall opposite the bed, his body rigid, ears flat. "Scout, what is it?" He didn't look at me, just kept growling at the wall. I turned on the bedside lamp. The RV flooded with light, and Scout immediately relaxed, his tail wagging once as if embarrassed. I checked the window, but there was nothing outside. No movement, no animals, just the dark hillside and the distant glow of other RVs. "You're being weird," I told him. I turned off the light and lay back down. 2 minutes later, Scout started growling again. This time I got up and checked the whole RV. I turned on every light, looked out every window, even stepped outside with a flashlight to walk the perimeter. Nothing. Scout followed me, quiet now, his earlier agitation gone. "Maybe you heard a coyote," I said. "Or a javelina. We're in their territory now." But I didn't really believe that. Scout had lived in Portland. He'd heard plenty of urban wildlife, raccoons and possums and the occasional deer in the greenways. He never reacted like this. I went back to bed, left the bathroom light on, door cracked, which gave enough ambient light to see by. Scout settled at the foot of the bed, and I eventually fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up to Scout barking at the door. Not unusual. He needed to go out. But when I checked my phone, it was 10:47 a.m. I never sleep that late. My body clock typically wakes me by 7, even without an alarm. I let Scout out and made coffee. The campground was quiet. Through the window, I could see the RV next to mine, a large fifth wheel with California plates. An older couple sat outside under their awning, drinking coffee and reading. They waved when they saw me looking. I waved back. I spent the morning working, revising the invoice for my client and catching up on bookkeeping entries. The Wi-Fi was better during the day, though it still dropped occasionally. Around noon, I took Scout for a walk around the campground. That's when I met the family in Spot 37. They had a newer Class C motorhome, maybe 30 feet, with a bike rack on the back carrying 4 mountain bikes. 2 kids, a boy and a girl, were playing catch near the picnic table while their parents sat in camp chairs. The woman smiled as Scout and I approached. "Beautiful dog," she said. "Is he friendly?" "Very," I said. Scout wagged his tail, and the woman reached out to pet him. "I'm Jennifer," she said. "This is my husband, Mark, and our kids, Tyler and Emma." Mark nodded at me. He was maybe 45, wearing cargo shorts and a faded college t-shirt. The kids looked about 8 and 10. "Amanda," I said. "We're in Spot 43. "How long are you staying?" Jennifer asked. "A week, maybe longer. You?" "Just through the weekend. We're here for the hiking. Have you done any of the trails yet?" I shook my head. "Just got in yesterday." We talked for a few minutes about the area, the best trails, where to get groceries. Jennifer was friendly in that effortless way some people are, asking questions without being intrusive. Mark was quieter, letting his wife carry the conversation. The kids mostly ignored us, focused on their game. "You should join us for dinner tonight," Jennifer said. "We're grilling burgers around 6. Nothing fancy, but we always make too much food." I almost declined. I'd gotten used to being alone over the past 6 weeks. and the idea of small talk with strangers felt exhausting. But Jennifer's smile was genuine, and I realized I hadn't had a real conversation with anyone since leaving Portland. "Sure," I said. "Thanks." "Great. Spot 37. Bring your dog. The kids will love him." Scout and I finished our walk and returned to the RV. I tried to work some more, but I couldn't focus. I kept thinking about the night before. Scout's growling, the way he'd stared at the wall. It didn't make sense. The RV was parked on level ground, no shadows from passing cars or moving branches outside. And yet Scout had reacted to something. Around 3 in the afternoon, I decided to lie down. I hadn't slept well, and a nap seemed reasonable. I set an alarm for 5 so I'd have time to get ready for dinner. When the alarm went off, my phone said 7:23 p.m. I stared at the screen, confused. I'd set the alarm for 5:00. I checked the alarm app. The alarm was there, set for 5:00 p.m., labeled nap. But it hadn't gone off. Or maybe it had, and I'd slept through it, though I'd never done that before. I looked outside. It was dark, not evening dark, but full night. The lights from other RVs glowed in the distance. I called Scout. He was lying in the main cabin, staring at the same wall as the night before. "Scout, come here." He looked at me but didn't move. I got up and walked to him. He was trembling, his eyes fixed on the wall. I followed his gaze but saw nothing. Just the blank wall, the small window above it showing only darkness outside. "What is it, buddy?" He finally looked at me, whined once, then went back to staring. I checked the wall, ran my hand along it, looking for cracks or gaps where an animal might be hiding. Nothing. The wall was solid, the window sealed tight. I grabbed my phone and texted Jennifer an apology, saying I'd overslept and missed dinner. She texted back immediately, "No worries, we saved you a burger. Come by if you want." I didn't want to. Something felt wrong. The lost time, Scout's behavior, the way the darkness outside seemed thicker than normal. But I also didn't want to sit in the RV alone with my anxious dog and my own spiraling thoughts. I clipped a leash on Scout and walked to spot 37. The family was still outside, sitting around a portable fire pit. The kids were roasting marshmallows. Jennifer stood when she saw me. "Amanda, we were worried you weren't coming." "Sorry," I said. I fell asleep and didn't hear my alarm. "No problem. Mark, get her a burger." Mark went to their picnic table and brought back a plate with a hamburger and chips. I sat in one of their extra chairs and Scout lay down at my feet. We talked for a while, normal conversation. Jennifer asked about my trip, where I'd been, where I was going. I gave vague answers. The kids asked if they could pet Scout, and I said yes. Tyler, the younger one, was cautious. Emma, the older girl, was fearless, rubbing Scout's belly while he rolled onto his back. "He's so sweet," Emma said. "Usually," I said, watching Scout's relaxed posture. No sign of the tension from earlier. Mark asked about the RV, what model it was, how I liked living on the road. I told him about the leak in the bathroom and the generator problems. He offered to take a look in the morning if I wanted. "I used to work on RVs," he said. "Might be something simple." "I appreciate it," I said, though I wasn't sure I wanted him in my space. Around 9, the kids started getting tired. Jennifer suggested they head inside, and I took it as my cue to leave. I thanked them for the burger and walked back to my RV with Scout. The campground was quiet. Most of the RVs had their lights on, the soft glow spilling out from windows. I could hear a TV from one unit, laughter from another, normal sounds, comforting sounds. But when I got back to my RV and opened the door, Scout stopped on the steps. He wouldn't come inside. "Scout, come on." He backed up, pulling against the leash. "What's wrong with you?" I looked into the RV. All the lights were off even though I'd left the bathroom light on. The interior was dark, the kind of dark that seems to absorb light rather than just reflect the absence of it. I reached inside and flipped the light switch by the door. Nothing happened. I tried the other switches. None of them worked. "Breaker must have tripped," I said, more to myself than Scout. I stepped inside, using my phone's flashlight to navigate. Scout still wouldn't follow. I could hear him whining on the steps. The breaker panel was by the bedroom. I walked through the dark RV, my phone light cutting a thin path through the blackness. Everything looked normal, nothing out of place, but the air felt different, colder maybe, or heavier. Like the pressure had changed. I found the breaker panel and opened it. All the switches were in the correct position. I flipped them off and on anyway. Still nothing. Then I heard it. A sound like fabric dragging across wood. Soft, rhythmic, coming from the bedroom. I pointed my phone light toward the back. The bedroom door was closed. I'd left it open. Hello? The dragging sound stopped. I stood there, phone light shaking slightly in my hand, trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to open the door. Part of me wanted to run. I opened the door. The bedroom was empty. The bed was made just as I'd left it. Nothing moved. But on the wall opposite the bed, the one Scout had been staring at, I saw something. Shadows. Not normal shadows. Not the kind made by objects blocking light. These were shapes. Dark patches on the wall that moved independently, sliding across the surface like oil on water. They had no source, no corresponding object casting them. They just existed, defying the empty room around them. I backed out of the bedroom and left the RV. Scout was waiting outside, his tail between his legs. I sat down on the steps, and he pressed against my side. "I'm going crazy," I said out loud. I called the campground office. No answer. I tried Jennifer's number, which she'd given me earlier. It rang 5 times and went to voicemail. I sat there for maybe 10 minutes trying to decide what to do. Go back inside? Sleep in the truck of the RV? Drive to a hotel? But even as I thought about leaving, I realized I was too tired to drive, and every hotel in Sedona would be expensive. Finally, I went back inside. The lights worked now. I flipped the switch, and the whole RV lit up. I checked the bedroom. The shadows were gone. The wall was blank, just painted metal with nothing on it. I convinced Scout to come inside, and I locked the door. Then I pulled out the sofa bed in the main cabin and made it up with blankets. Scout and I slept there with all the lights on, including the one over the stove and the reading light by the dinette. I didn't sleep well. Every time I started to drift off, Scout would tense beside me and I'd jerk awake, certain I'd heard something. But there was nothing. Just the normal sounds of an RV at night. The hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the propane heater, the occasional creak of metal expanding and contracting. Around 3 in the morning, I gave up on sleep and made coffee. I sat at the dinette with my laptop trying to work, but I couldn't focus. I kept looking at the bedroom door, closed now, wondering what I'd seen on the wall. I knew what it looked like. I knew it looked like shadows moving without light. But that was impossible. Shadows don't move on their own. They're not entities. They're just the absence of light, a physical phenomenon with a scientific explanation. And yet I'd seen them. I Googled shadows moving on their own. Most of the results were about paranormal experiences, shadow people, supposed hauntings. I didn't believe in that. I'd never believed in that. Ghosts, demons, supernatural entities. They were stories people told to explain things they didn't understand. But I'd seen them. Around 6, as the sun started to rise, I heard a knock on my door. I opened it to find Mark standing outside. "Morning," he said. "Sorry to bother you so early. I wanted to check that generator before the day got hot." I'd completely forgotten about his offer. "Oh, right, thanks." He came inside and Scout growled at him, not aggressively, just a warning sound. "Scout, stop," I said. Mark laughed. "It's okay. Dogs don't always like me." He went to the generator compartment outside and started tinkering. I made more coffee and stood by the door, watching him work. After about 20 minutes, he came back. "Fuel filter's clogged," he said. "I can replace it if you want. I've got a spare in my RV." "You don't have to do that. It's no trouble. Be back in 5. He left, and I sat down trying to shake the exhaustion that was settling into my bones. Scout had stopped growling and was now lying in his usual spot by the door. Mark came back with the filter and his toolbox. He worked quickly, replacing the part and testing the generator. It started on the first try. "Should be good now," he said, wiping his hands on a rag. "Thank you. How much do I owe you?" "Nothing. Filter was like $10. Consider it a welcome to the campground gift." I insisted on paying him something, and we eventually settled on $20. He pocketed the cash and started to leave, then paused. "You okay?" he asked. "You look like you didn't sleep." "I didn't," I said. "My dog was acting weird all night." "Weird how?" I almost told him. About Scout growling at the walls, about the shadows, about the lights going out. But the words felt ridiculous in the morning light. "Just restless," I said instead. Mark nodded. "Sometimes dogs pick up on things we don't. Vibrations, sounds, electromagnetic fields. We're camping near power lines. That might be affecting him." "Maybe." He left, and I finally went back to the bedroom to try to sleep. I pulled the blackout curtains closed and lay down on the bed. Scout curled up next to me, his back pressed against my legs. I fell asleep immediately. When I woke up, my phone said it was 4:37 p.m. I sat up, disoriented. I'd lost another 7 hours. I checked my alarm again. I hadn't set one, but that didn't explain why I felt so groggy, like I'd been drugged. Scout was still asleep next to me, which was unusual. He usually woke me up by now, needing to go out. I shook him gently. "Scout, wake up." He didn't move. I shook him harder. "Scout." His eyes opened, but he didn't lift his head, just looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Not quite recognition, not quite confusion, something else. "Come on, buddy, you need to go outside." He stood slowly, wobbling slightly, then followed me to the door. I let him out, and he immediately walked to the nearest bush and urinated for what felt like a full minute. I stood outside, breathing the afternoon air. The campground was quiet again. I could see Jennifer and Mark's RV, but they weren't outside. The fifth wheel next to me was gone, the spot empty. Other RVs I'd seen yesterday were also gone. In their places were different vehicles, different license plates. I walked Scout around the campground, trying to clear my head. We passed a few people and they nodded or said hello. Normal interactions. Nothing strange. But something felt off. The light was wrong, the angle of the sun not quite where it should be for late afternoon in April. The shadows were too long, stretching across the ground in ways that didn't match the position of objects. I stopped walking and looked at Scout's shadow. It wasn't moving with him. I stared at it, certain I was seeing things wrong. But no. Scout took a step forward and his shadow remained where it was for a half second before sliding to catch up. I looked at my own shadow. Same thing, a slight delay, like a bad video stream with lag. I blinked, rubbed my eyes. When I looked again, the shadows were normal. We returned to the RV and I locked the door. I needed to leave. I needed to pack up and drive somewhere else. Somewhere with better Wi-Fi and more people and explanations for what was happening. But I also needed to eat, and I needed to work. I heated up a can of chili and forced myself to eat it while going through my email. One of my clients needed a report by tomorrow. I worked on it for a few hours, occasionally glancing at Scout, who had gone back to staring at the wall. Around 8, Jennifer texted me, "We're having s'mores tonight if you want to join." I didn't want to. I wanted to stay in my RV with the lights on and the door locked, but the idea of sitting alone with Scout in the shadows felt worse. I texted back, "Be there in 10. This time I left Scout in the RV. He didn't like it, whining as I closed the door, but I couldn't bring him. Not when he was acting so strange. Jennifer's family was gathered around the fire pit again, roasting marshmallows. Emma ran up to me when she saw me. "Where's Scout?" she asked. "He's tired," I said. "He's sleeping." She looked disappointed, but went back to her marshmallow. I sat down, and Jennifer handed me a stick and marshmallows. We made s'mores and talked about nothing important. The kids told me about the hike they'd done that day. showing me pictures on Jennifer's phone of red rocks and desert vistas. "We're leaving tomorrow," Jennifer said, "heading back to Phoenix. It's been a great trip." "I'm glad," I said. Mark was quiet, staring into the fire. At one point, he looked up at me, and I saw something in his eyes. A recognition, maybe, or a warning, but he didn't say anything. Around 9:30, I excused myself and went back to my RV. Scout was still staring at the wall. He didn't greet me when I came in, didn't even look at me. "Scout, what's wrong?" He kept staring. I walked over to him and knelt down, putting my hand on his head. He was trembling again, his muscles tense. I looked at the wall. The shadows were back. But this time, they weren't just moving. They were forming shapes, recognizable shapes, human shapes. I watched as one shadow separated from the others and moved across the wall, its edges sharp and defined. It looked like a person walking, arms swinging, legs moving in a natural gait. But there was no body casting it, no light source creating it, just the shadow moving independently across the surface. More shadows appeared, some small, child-sized, some large and hulking. They moved in patterns, circling each other, merging and splitting. A silent dance on my RV wall. Scout started growling. I backed away from the wall, pulling Scout with me. We went to the front of the RV, as far from the bedroom as possible. I sat on the sofa bed, Scout pressed against me, and watched the bedroom door. The shadows didn't stay on one wall. I could see them now on the ceiling, on the door, sliding across surfaces with impossible fluidity. They were everywhere, surrounding us. My phone rang. I grabbed it, desperate for any distraction. The screen showed Jennifer's number. "Hello? Amanda?" Jennifer's voice was wrong. Too high, too strained. "Jennifer, what's wrong?" "Have you seen Emma?" "What?" "Emma, our daughter. She's gone." I stood up. "What do you mean, gone?" "She was playing near the RV and then we can't find her. We've been looking for half an hour. Mark called the office, but no one's answering." "I'll help you look," I said. I hung up and grabbed my flashlight. Scout followed me outside, his growling replaced by whining. The campground was dark. Most of the RVs had their lights off, even though it wasn't that late. I walked quickly to Jennifer and Mark's spot and found them both standing outside, looking panicked. "When did you last see her?" I asked. "Right after you left," Jennifer said. "She wanted to brush her teeth, so she went inside the RV. When she didn't come back after 10 minutes, I went to check, and she was gone. The door was open. Did you check the bathrooms, the office?" Mark checked. Nothing. We spread out, calling Emma's name. I walked the perimeter of the campground with Scout, shining my flashlight into the brush and between RVs. Other campers came out, asking what was wrong, offering to help. I found Emma near the spot where the campground backed up to the hillside. She was standing alone, facing the rocks, completely still. "Emma," I called. She didn't turn around. I walked closer. "Emma, your parents are looking for you." Still no response. I reached out and touched her shoulder. She turned around slowly, and I saw her face in the flashlight beam. She was smiling. Not a normal smile. Not a happy smile. Her lips were stretched too wide, showing too many teeth. Her eyes were open, but the pupils were dilated, black circles that reflected no light. "Emma?" "Hello, Amanda," she said, but it wasn't her voice. It was too deep, too resonant, like multiple voices speaking in unison. I stepped back. Scout started barking, the sound echoing across the campground. "What's wrong with you?" I asked. Emma's smile widened impossibly. "Nothing's wrong. I feel wonderful." She took a step toward me, and I saw her shadow on the ground behind her. It wasn't moving with her. It was still, frozen in place while Emma's body moved forward. "Stay away from me," I said. "But we've been waiting for you, Amanda. You and your dog. You're special. You can see us." "What are you?" "We are what remains," Emma said. "We are the ones who stayed behind when the light left. We live in the spaces between. And now, we want to come back." More shadows appeared around us. Not on surfaces now, but standing upright on the ground. Three-dimensional forms made of darkness. They surrounded us in a circle, moving closer with each passing second. Scout stopped barking and started whimpering. He pressed against my legs, trembling. "Emma," Jennifer's voice called from somewhere behind me. I turned and saw Jennifer and Mark running toward us. "Don't come closer," I shouted. But they didn't listen. Jennifer reached Emma and grabbed her, hugging her tightly. "Oh my God, Emma, you scared us so much." Emma hugged her mother back, still smiling that wrong smile. "I'm okay, Mommy," she said in that multi-layered voice. Mark arrived, breathing hard. He looked at Emma, then at me. "What happened?" he asked. "I found her standing here," I said. "She seems different." "Different how?" Jennifer asked, pulling back to look at Emma's face. But Emma's face was normal now. Her smile was gone, replaced by a confused expression. Her eyes were the right size, the pupils the right diameter. "I don't know what happened," Emma said in her regular voice. "I went outside to look at the stars and then I don't remember." Jennifer hugged her again. "It's okay, baby. You're safe now." They walked back to their RV, Emma between them, holding their hands. Mark looked back at me once and I saw that expression again, that warning. I stood there with Scout, surrounded by shadows that no longer moved. They were just normal shadows now, cast by my flashlight, by the moon, by the distant glow of RV lights. But I knew what I'd seen. I knew what Emma had become, even if just for a moment. I went back to my RV and locked the door. Scout immediately went to his spot and started staring at the wall again. The shadows were still there, moving in their silent dance. I sat on the sofa bed and tried to think rationally. There had to be an explanation. Maybe I was experiencing carbon monoxide poisoning. Maybe the leak in the bathroom wasn't just water. Maybe there was a gas leak and I was hallucinating. I opened all the windows and turned off the propane. Then I sat back down and watched the shadows. They didn't go away. Around midnight, I heard screaming. I ran outside to find Jennifer standing in front of her RV, screaming at the top of her lungs. Other campers were emerging from their vehicles, asking what was wrong. I ran to her. "Jennifer, what happened?" She pointed at her RV with a shaking hand. "Tyler," she said. "Tyler's gone." "What do you mean?" "He was sleeping. We all were. And then Mark woke up and checked on the kids. And Tyler's bed was empty. The door was locked from the inside. He's just gone." Mark came out of the RV, his face pale. "I've searched everywhere. He's not inside." We organized another search. More people this time, maybe a dozen campers, all walking the grounds with flashlights and calling Tyler's name. Someone finally got through to the office, and the woman with turquoise jewelry came out, looking annoyed until she understood the situation. "I'll call the police, she said. We searched for 2 hours. We checked every RV, every bathroom, every bush and rock formation. We walked the highway, looking in ditches. We found nothing. Around 2:30 in the morning, the police arrived. 2 officers, both young, both looking skeptical of the campground and the situation. They took statements, asked about Tyler's habits, whether he might have run away. Jennifer insisted he wouldn't. Tyler was 8 years old. He was afraid of the dark. They organized a more official search, calling in additional officers and volunteers from town. By dawn, there were 30 people combing the area. I helped search until the sun came up, then returned to my RV with Scout. I was exhausted, operating on no sleep and pure adrenaline. I made coffee and tried to work, but my hands were shaking too much to type. Around 9, Jennifer knocked on my door. I opened it and saw her face streaked with tears, her eyes red and swollen. "They found him," she said. "Thank God. Is he okay?" She shook her head. "He's alive, but he's not right, Amanda. He's like Emma was last night, smiling and saying strange things." "Where did they find him?" "In his bed. When Mark checked the RV again this morning, Tyler was just lying there asleep. He swears Tyler wasn't there before, but the police think we just missed him in the panic." "What's he saying?" "The same things Emma said. About being wonderful, about seeing us, about the shadows. She started crying harder. What's happening to my kids? I didn't have an answer. I hugged her while she sobbed, and over her shoulder I saw Emma and Tyler standing outside their RV, both watching us with identical smiles. The police asked more questions. They took Tyler to the hospital in Sedona to be examined. The doctors found nothing physically wrong. No signs of trauma, no drugs in his system. Just a healthy 8-year-old boy who smiled too much and spoke in odd phrases. By afternoon, the family was packing up to leave. The police recommended they take both kids to a specialist, someone who could evaluate them properly. Jennifer was barely functional, moving on autopilot while Mark loaded the RV. I helped them pack, mostly to keep busy. Emma and Tyler sat in the camp chairs watching us work, still smiling. At one point, Tyler looked at me and said, "Don't worry, Amanda. You'll understand soon." Mark overheard. He grabbed my arm and pulled me aside, his grip tight enough to hurt. "You need to leave," he whispered. "Tonight. Don't stay here." "What do you mean?" "I don't know what's happening, but it's not natural. This place is wrong. Get out while you still can." They left around 4, their RV pulling out of the campground in a cloud of dust. I watched them go, then looked around at the remaining campers. Most people were packing up too, spooked by the disappearance and the police presence. By evening, only 5 RVs remained, including mine. I should have left then. I should have listened to Mark and driven somewhere else. But I was too tired, too shaken. And part of me, the rational part that still believed in logical explanations, wanted to stay, to prove that what I'd experienced wasn't real. That night, I kept all the lights on again and tried to sleep on the sofa bed with Scout. But Scout wouldn't settle. He paced between the front and back of the RV, growling constantly at the walls. Around 11, the lights went out. All of them. Not just in my RV, but across the entire campground. I could see through the windows. Every RV was dark. I grabbed my flashlight, but it wouldn't turn on. I tried my phone, but the screen stayed black even though it had been fully charged. The darkness was absolute, the kind of dark that makes you question whether your eyes are even open. And in that darkness, the shadows moved. I could see them now without light, which should have been impossible. They glowed with a faint luminescence, outlined shapes that moved through the RV like living things. They were all around me, dozens of them, crowding the small space. Scout was barking now, a continuous sound of pure terror. I reached out in the dark, trying to find him, and my hand touched something cold. It wasn't Scout. I jerked my hand back and scrambled toward where I thought the door was. My shin hit the dinette table, pain shooting up my leg, but I kept moving. I found the door handle and pulled. It wouldn't open. I pulled harder, panic rising. The handle moved, but the door stayed shut, as if something were holding it from the outside. The cold thing touched me again, this time on my shoulder. Fingers that weren't fingers, pressure without substance. I spun around, swinging my arm through empty air, but I felt them. Multiple presences surrounding me, reaching out. Scout's barking stopped. "Scout?" I called. No response. I fell to my knees, feeling along the floor. "Scout, where are you?" My hand touched fur. I grabbed him and pulled him close. He was limp, not moving, but I could feel his heartbeat against my chest. The shadows grew brighter, their luminescence intensifying until I could see the interior of the RV in their pale glow. They were humanoid but wrong, their proportions distorted, their movements fluid and unnatural. One of them moved closer and I saw its face. It had no features, just a blank surface where eyes and mouth should be, but I could feel it looking at me. "Please," I whispered. "Leave us alone." It reached out, and then I heard a voice. Not the multi-layered voice Emma and Tyler had used. A single voice, quiet and sad. "Help us," it said. The shadow's hand touched my face, and I felt a sudden rush of images. Memories that weren't mine, experiences I'd never lived. I saw this place years ago, decades ago. I saw people camping here, families and couples, unaware of what lived beneath the ground. I saw them disappear one by one, pulled into the darkness, their bodies never found. I saw their shadows torn from them, separated from their physical forms, trapped in this canyon while their bodies wandered away, changed and wrong. I saw David, my ex-husband, standing in our house in Portland, but his shadow on the wall behind him moved independently, waving at me while David stood still. I understood then. The shadows weren't hunting us. They were trapped, separated from the people they belonged to, trying to find their way back, and we were the same. Me and Scout and everyone who stayed at this campground. Our shadows were being taken, pulled into whatever space these things inhabited, leaving our bodies behind to be filled with something else. The light came back suddenly. All the RVs lit up at once, flooding the campground with electric brightness. I blinked, my eyes adjusting. The shadows were gone. The RV looked normal. Scout was beside me, awake now, looking at me with clear eyes. But when I looked at the window, I saw my reflection, and my reflection's eyes were black. I packed up immediately, didn't even retract the awning properly, just threw everything inside and disconnected the hookups. Scout jumped into the passenger seat and I started the engine. The woman from the office was standing outside the facility building watching me. She raised one hand in a wave, and I saw her shadow on the wall behind her, waving in the opposite direction. I drove away from Desert Vista RV Park as fast as the Winnebago could manage, not looking back. I'm in California now, parked at a rest stop off I-5. I've been driving for 3 days, stopping only for gas and bathroom breaks. Scout is sleeping in the back, and when I check on him, his shadow moves correctly. Mine does too, as far as I can tell, but sometimes when I'm not looking directly at a mirror, I see my reflection move on its own. A turn of the head, a slight smile, a shift in posture that doesn't match what I'm doing. And at night, in the dark, I hear whispers, not from outside, from inside me. Multiple voices overlapping, saying things I don't want to understand. I called Jennifer yesterday. I don't know why. Maybe to check if Emma and Tyler were okay. Maybe to confirm I wasn't crazy. She answered on the third ring. Amanda? Her voice sounded strange, too cheerful. Jennifer, how are the kids? They're wonderful, she said. We're all wonderful. We've never been happier. Are they still different? She laughed. Different? No, they're perfect. We all are. You should come visit us, Amanda. We'd love to see you again. I hung up. I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't go back to Portland. David is there, and I saw him in those visions. I saw his shadow moving wrong. I can't stay in one place too long. The shadows find you when you're still. So I keep driving. Scout and I moving from place to place, never staying more than a night. I work when I can, sleep in rest stops and parking lots, avoid campgrounds. But I know it's only a matter of time. I can feel them inside me growing stronger. The voices are louder now. My reflection moves more frequently. Scout stares at me sometimes with an expression I can't read, and I wonder if he sees the same thing I do in the mirror. I'm writing this down because I need someone to know what happened, in case I disappear, or in case I come back wrong. In case someone finds this RV abandoned on the side of the road with my laptop open and my dog sitting patiently by the door. If you're reading this, stay away from Desert Vista RV Park. Stay away from any place where your shadow doesn't match your movement. And if you wake up one night to find your dog growling at the walls, listen to them. Because the shadows are real. They're waiting in the dark, patient and hungry, ready to take your place when you're not looking. And once they're inside you, there's no getting them out. I can feel mine right now, pressing against my skull from the inside, whispering suggestions about where to drive next, which campground looks nice, how tired I am, and wouldn't it be nice to stop for the night. I'm writing faster now, trying to finish before I lose control completely. My hands are shaking. Scout is growling again. The sun is setting outside the rest stop, and the shadows are getting longer. I don't have much time left. If anyone finds this, tell them I tried to fight it. Tell them I'm sorry. Tell them the shadows are. My name is Ben Walker. This happened in September 2023 in Kisatchie National Forest, Louisiana. I run a podcast called Forgotten Folklore, where I travel to small towns and record episodes about local legends. I thought I was documenting a story. I didn't know I was becoming one. I'd been doing the podcast for 3 years, 23 episodes. Decent following, about 15,000 regular listeners. Nothing huge, but enough to cover my gas and equipment. I lived in my RV full-time, drove from town to town, talked to people, recorded their stories. It was a good life. Simple. The Kisachi legend came to me through an email. A woman named Marlene Broussard said her grandmother used to tell stories about the singing widow, a woman who appeared in the forest during certain times of year, always near the old logging camps. She said people who heard her singing were never quite right afterward. Some disappeared completely. Marlene said September was when the widow appeared most often. She gave me the name of the campground where I should stay. Backbone Trail Campground, about 20 miles south of the main ranger station. I arrived on a Thursday afternoon. The campground was mostly empty, just my RV, a pop-up camper at the far end, and what looked like a permanent setup near the bathroom facilities. An older Winnebago with lawn chairs and a satellite dish. The trees were thick here, pine and hardwood mixed together, and the light came through in patches that moved when the wind blew. I set up my RV in spot 14. The ground was level, and I had electricity, which meant I could charge my recording equipment overnight. I planned to spend 4 or 5 days here. Interview locals, record some ambient forest sounds, maybe hike out to where the old logging camps used to be. Standard procedure for me. That first night was quiet. I edited some audio from my previous episode, uploaded it to my hosting platform, and went to sleep around midnight. The air conditioner in my RV was loud enough that I didn't hear much from outside. Friday morning, I drove into the nearest town, Woodworth, about 40 minutes away. Marlene had given me the name of a diner where older locals gathered for breakfast. I brought my portable recorder and a notebook. The diner was called Rosie's. It had 6 booths and a counter with spinning stools. I ordered coffee and asked the waitress if she knew anyone who remembered stories about the old logging camps in Kisachi. She pointed to a table near the window where 3 men sat, all of them probably in their 70s or 80s. I introduced myself, explained what I did. They looked at each other. Then one of them, a man named Eugene, said I could sit down. "You hear about the widow?" Eugene asked. "Yes, sir. Someone emailed me about her. Said she appears in September." Eugene nodded slowly. "My daddy worked those camps in the 40s. He told me about her. Said she wasn't right. Said she looked like a woman, but she wasn't." "What do you mean?" "Just that she wasn't." He couldn't explain it better than that. Said she'd sing and men would walk off into the trees. Some came back, some didn't. The ones who came back were different. Different how? Eugene looked at his coffee. Quiet. Didn't talk much. Looked at things that weren't there. One man came back and couldn't remember his wife's name. Another one came back and wouldn't eat nothing but raw meat. I wrote this down. The other 2 men didn't say much, just nodded when Eugene spoke. "Do you know where the camps were located?" I asked. "Back along Backbone Ridge. Most of it's grown over now. Forest Service closed some of the old roads, but you can still get back there if you know where to walk." "Is it dangerous?" Eugene looked at me for a long moment. "September's when she sings. If you hear singing out there, don't follow it. That's all I can tell you." I thanked them and left a 20 on the table for their coffee. I had enough for a podcast episode already. Local testimony, specific details about the camps, a warning. It was good material. I spent the afternoon walking around the campground, recording ambient sound. Birds, wind through the pines, the creek that ran along the eastern edge of the camping area. I saw the person from the pop-up camper, a woman in her 50s walking a small terrier. She waved. I waved back. That evening, I sat outside my RV with my laptop and started organizing the audio files. I labeled everything carefully. Eugene interview, Zoro 1, Ambient Creek, Goro 2, Campground Evening, Zoro 3. I had a system. Around 8 o'clock, I heard singing. It was distant, coming from the direction of the forest beyond the campground boundary. A woman's voice, high and clear. I couldn't make out words, but the melody was simple, repetitive. I grabbed my recorder and headphones and started walking toward the sound. The singing seemed to come from a trail that led into the trees behind Spot 17. I followed it, recording as I went. The light was fading fast. The sun had already dropped below the tree line, but I had a headlamp in my pocket. I walked for maybe 10 minutes. The singing got louder, then stopped completely. I stood in the middle of the trail, waiting, but it didn't start again. I recorded 30 seconds of silence, then turned around and walked back to my RV. When I reviewed the audio that night, I noticed something strange. The singing was there for the first 2 minutes, clear as anything. Then it stopped like I remembered. But in the silence afterward, there was another sound underneath. A low whispering like multiple voices talking at once, but too quiet to make out words. I hadn't heard it while I was there. It only showed up in the recording. I ran the audio through a filter to isolate the whispering. When I amplified it and slowed it down, I could almost make out what it was saying. It sounded like, "Come back, come back, come back." Over and over. I didn't sleep well that night. Saturday morning, I decided to hike out to where the logging camps had been. I had GPS coordinates from an old Forest Service map I'd found online. The trail was marked but overgrown. I brought water, my recorder, my camera, and a handheld GPS unit. The forest was different during the day. Sunlight came through in shafts, and the air smelled like pine sap and damp earth. I followed the trail for about 3 miles, then turned onto an unmarked path that headed northwest, toward Backbone Ridge. I found the first camp around 11 in the morning. It was mostly gone, just the concrete foundations of what had been buildings, some rusted equipment half buried in the dirt. I took photos, recorded some description for my podcast, and kept walking. The second camp was larger. I could see where there had been a dozen buildings, maybe more. The forest had reclaimed most of it, but you could still see the layout if you looked carefully. I sat on one of the foundations and ate a protein bar. That's when I saw her. She was standing at the edge of the clearing, maybe 50 yards away, a woman in a pale dress. She wasn't moving, just standing there watching me. I lifted my hand to wave. She didn't respond. I stood up and started walking toward her, but when I got to where she'd been standing, there was nothing there. No footprints, no sign anyone had been there at all. I looked around, called out, "Hello?" a few times, but got no response. I checked my GPS. It was spinning, the coordinates changing randomly, the compass needle swinging in circles. I tried to restart it, but it wouldn't turn back on. I used my phone's GPS instead. It worked fine, showed exactly where I was. I marked the location and started walking back to the campground. I got lost anyway. The trail I'd taken in should have been easy to follow. I'd marked it on my GPS before it died, but every time I thought I was heading the right direction, I'd end up in a part of the forest I didn't recognize. I walked for 3 hours, getting more and more frustrated, before I finally stumbled onto a Forest Service road and followed it back to the campground. It was almost dark when I got back. I was exhausted, frustrated, and starting to feel uneasy about the whole situation. That night I reviewed my camera footage. I'd been recording video while I walked just in case I wanted to use it for promotional material. When I got to the part where I saw the woman in the clearing, I watched it 3 times. She was there in the video. But in the video she was closer than I remembered, maybe 20 yards away instead of 50. And she was smiling. A wide, fixed smile that didn't change the entire time I was looking at her. I hadn't noticed the smile when I was there in person. I zoomed in on her face in the footage. Her eyes didn't blink, not once. She just stood there smiling, not blinking, while I waved at her and then walked toward her. When I got to the part where I reached the spot where she'd been standing, the video showed something I hadn't seen in person. For just a frame or two, less than a second, she was visible behind me, still smiling, before the camera panned away. I closed my laptop and sat in the dark for a while. Sunday morning I drove back into Woodworth. I wanted to talk to Eugene again, ask him more about what happened to the men who came back different. But when I got to the diner, the waitress said Eugene hadn't been in. She gave me his address, a house on the edge of town. I knocked on his door for 5 minutes before his wife answered. She looked tired, older than I'd expected. "Eugene's not feeling well," she said. "He can't have visitors. I'm sorry to bother you. I talked to him yesterday about the logging camps. I just had a couple follow-up questions." She looked at me for a long moment. "You went out there, didn't you, to the camps?" "Yes, ma'am." "Did you see her?" I didn't answer right away. She nodded, like my silence was confirmation enough. "Eugene went out there once," she said. "Back in 1967, he was with his brother. His brother didn't come back. Eugene did, but he's never been the same. He has nightmares. He sees things that aren't there. Yesterday after you left, he got worse. Started talking about hearing singing. I had to call the doctor. I'm sorry," I said. "I didn't mean to." "You should leave," she said. "Leave the forest. Leave the town. Don't finish whatever you're doing. Just go." She closed the door. I drove back to the campground. I was starting to think she was right. Maybe I should just pack up and leave. But I had a podcast episode to finish. I had listeners expecting new content, and part of me, the part that had been doing this for 3 years, didn't want to give up on a good story. That afternoon, I walked around the campground trying to clear my head. The woman with the pop-up camper was sitting outside, reading a book. I walked over and introduced myself. Her name was Diane. She'd been camping here for 2 weeks, she said. She came every September. "Do you know about the legend?" I asked. "The singing widow?" She looked up from her book. "Everyone who camps here knows about it. Most people think it's just a story. What do you think?" "I think the forest is old, older than the logging camps, older than the town. I think there are things in it that don't make sense, but I don't worry about them. They're part of the place." "Have you ever heard singing?" She smiled. "Every night." I stared at her. "And that doesn't bother you?" "Why would it? It's beautiful. You should listen to it sometime. Really listen, I mean. Don't just record it, actually hear it." Something about the way she said it made my skin feel cold. "When did you start camping here?" I asked. "Oh, I don't remember exactly. A long time ago. Time doesn't work quite right out here." Her dog came over and sniffed my hand. I petted it and the dog growled. Diane laughed. "He doesn't usually do that," she said. "He must sense something about you." I went back to my RV. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to the air conditioner, but underneath it I could hear singing. Faint, distant, but definitely there. The same melody I'd heard Friday night. I got up and looked out the window. The campground was dark except for a single light near the bathroom facilities. I could see Diane's pop-up camper. The lights were off. Then I saw someone standing between my RV and the camper, a woman in a pale dress. She was just standing there perfectly still, facing my RV. Even from inside, even in the dark, I could see she was smiling. I watched her for maybe 5 minutes. She didn't move at all, didn't shift her weight, didn't turn her head, just stood there. I turned on my outside lights, and she was gone. I didn't sleep after that. Monday morning, I decided I was done. I started packing up my equipment, getting ready to leave. I was coiling my electrical cables when Diane walked over. "Leaving?" she asked. "Yeah, I got what I needed for my podcast." "Did you?" She tilted her head slightly. "I thought you wanted to know about the widow." "I know enough. But you haven't heard her really sing yet. Not properly. Tonight's the night, you know. September 11th. That's when she sings the loudest, when she calls the strongest." "I think I'll pass." Diane smiled. It was the same smile I'd seen on the woman in the clearing. Wide, fixed, wrong. "You can't pass," she said. "You're already part of it. You heard her Friday night. You recorded her. You brought her home with you." She gestured at my RV. "She's in there now, in your recordings, waiting." I finished coiling the cable and started walking back to my RV. Diane followed me. "She needs someone new every year," Diane said. "Someone to sing to, someone to change. Last year it was a man from Texas. He stayed right where you're staying. Spot 14. He left after 4 days, but he came back. They always come back. He's in Woodworth now, living in a motel, waiting for next September. You need to leave me alone, I said. I'm trying to help you. If you understand what's happening, it's easier. She's already in you. You heard her voice. You recorded it. You amplified it, filtered it, isolated it. You let her all the way in. Tonight she'll call you out to the forest, and you'll go because you won't be able to stop yourself. And when you come back, if you come back, you'll be different, you'll be hers. I went inside my RV and locked the door. Through the window, I watched Diane walk back to her camper. She didn't look back. I sat at my laptop and opened the audio file from Friday night. The singing was there, just like before, and underneath it, the whispering, "Come back, come back, come back." I tried to delete the file. The computer froze. I forced it to shut down, but when I started it back up, the file was still there. I tried again. Same result. I unplugged my laptop, pulled out the battery, let it sit for 10 minutes. When I powered it back on, the file was still there. And when I looked at the other files in my folder, I saw something that made my hands shake. There were new files I hadn't recorded. Audio files dated from the past 3 days with names I hadn't created. Ben Walker listening, Zorro 1. Ben Walker sleeping, Zorro 2. Ben Walker breathing, Zorro 3. Dozens of them. I opened one. It was me, in my RV. I could hear myself moving around, hear the sounds of me editing audio, hear myself talking to myself the way I sometimes did when I was working. But I hadn't recorded any of this. Someone else had. Or something else had. I went through all the files. They were all the same. Recordings of me doing normal things. Recorded without my knowledge, by equipment I had with me but hadn't turned on. The last file was dated today, Monday, at 6:47 a.m. I opened it. It was me, sleeping. I could hear my breathing, slow and steady. Then, underneath my breathing, I heard singing. That same melody, coming from inside my RV, right next to where I was sleeping. And at the end of the recording, I heard my own voice, still asleep, starting to hum along with the singing. I grabbed my keys and ran outside. I was getting in my truck to leave when I saw the man from the permanent RV setup walking toward me. He was old, probably in his 80s, moving slowly. "You're leaving," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yes." "You can't. Not yet. She hasn't finished with you." "I don't care, I'm going." He shook his head. I tried to leave too. 17 years ago. Made it all the way to Baton Rouge before I turned around and came back. Took me 3 days, I couldn't help it, had to come back. I've been here ever since. I got in my truck and started the engine. "You'll be back," he called after me. "Tonight, tomorrow, next week. Doesn't matter. You'll come back." I drove out of the campground, onto the Forest Service Road, then onto the highway. I drove for 2 hours straight, not stopping, putting as much distance as I could between myself and Kisachi Forest. I made it to Lake Charles. I rented a motel room, carried my laptop inside, and sat on the bed. I couldn't stop thinking about the singing. I opened my laptop. The audio files were still there. I tried to delete them again, but my hand wouldn't move. I sat there, cursor hovering over the delete button, but I couldn't make myself click it. Instead, I opened the file from Friday night and pressed play. The singing filled the room. It was beautiful. I'd been so focused on the whispering underneath that I hadn't really listened to the singing itself. It was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. The melody seemed simple, but the more I listened, the more complex it became. There were harmonies in it that shouldn't have been possible from a single voice. Rhythms that didn't match anything I knew. I listened to the entire file, then played it again. I played it 17 times. At some point, I fell asleep with the laptop still open, the audio still playing on loop. I dreamed I was walking through the forest. It was dark, but I could see perfectly. The woman in the pale dress was walking ahead of me and I was following her. She didn't turn around, but I knew she was smiling. We walked for hours, maybe days, deeper and deeper into the forest, until we reached a place where the trees were so thick that no light came through at all. She stopped and turned around. Her smile was wider than any human smile should be. Her eyes were black, all the way across, no whites at all. She opened her mouth and sang. The sound came out of her and into me. I could feel it moving through my body like water, filling up empty spaces I didn't know I had. It hurt and felt good at the same time. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. When she finished singing, she reached out and touched my face. "You're mine now," she said. "Forever." I woke up in the motel room. It was dark outside. My laptop was still open, the audio file still playing. I looked at the clock. 11:47 p.m. I needed to go back to the forest. The need was physical, like hunger or thirst. I tried to fight it, but it was impossible. It was like trying to hold your breath forever. Eventually, your body takes over and makes you breathe. This was the same. I got in my truck and started driving. I made it back to Backbone Trail Campground at 2:15 a.m. I parked in spot 14. My RV was still there, locked up the way I'd left it. I sat in my truck, hands shaking, trying to understand what was happening to me. Then I heard the singing. It was coming from the forest, from the same direction as before. I got out of my truck and started walking. I didn't bring my recorder this time. I didn't bring anything. I just walked, following the singing, deeper into the trees. The moon was almost full, and the light came through the branches in silver patches. I could see the trail clearly. I walked for what felt like hours, though it might have been minutes. Time was doing something strange. I reached the clearing where I'd seen the woman on Saturday. She was there again, standing in the same spot, wearing the same pale dress, still smiling. I walked toward her. She didn't move. When I was 10 feet away, she spoke. "You came back." I couldn't help it. "No, you couldn't. You're mine now. You heard my song. You recorded it. You amplified it. You let me inside you. Now you belong to me." "What are you?" "I'm the widow. I'm the song. I'm what happens when people forget to be afraid of the forest. I've been here longer than the trees. I'll be here after they're gone. What do you want from me?" "The same thing I want from all of them. To sing through you, to live through you, to make you part of the song." She reached out her hand. I wanted to run, but I couldn't move. "It doesn't hurt," she said. "Not much. You just forget things. Little things at first. Your name, your birthday, where you came from. Then bigger things, who you were, what you wanted, why you're afraid. Eventually you forget everything except the song, and then you're mine completely." She touched my face. Her fingers were cold. "You'll go back to your RV now," she said. "You'll finish your podcast episode. You'll tell people about me. You'll play my song for them, and some of them will listen, really listen. And they'll come here, and I'll have them too." "No," I said. But even as I said it, I knew it was a lie. "Yes," she said, "because you can't help it. The song is in you now. It's part of you. You need to share it. You need others to hear it. That's what the song does. It spreads, it finds new voices, it grows." She leaned close and sang directly into my ear. The melody was the same, but this time I understood the words. They were in a language I didn't know, but I understood them anyway. They meant, "Come back, come back, come back forever." Everything went black. I woke up in my RV. It was morning, Tuesday. My laptop was open on the table and I was wearing headphones. The audio file was playing. I took off the headphones and looked around. Everything was normal. My RV looked exactly the way I'd left it. My equipment was where it should be. My coffee mug was on the counter. I tried to remember what happened after I walked into the forest, but I couldn't. There was a blank space in my memory, several hours missing. I looked at my laptop. There was a new audio file. I didn't remember creating it. The file was labeled Final Episode, The Singing Widow. I opened it and pressed play. It was me talking. My voice sounded normal, enthusiastic even. I was describing the legend of the singing widow, interviewing Eugene, talking about the old logging camps. The podcast episode was finished, completely edited with music and everything. I'd done a professional job. At the end of the episode, I'd included the singing. The full recording from Friday night, unfiltered, no analysis, just the pure sound of her voice. And at the very end, I heard myself say, "If you've enjoyed this episode of Forgotten Folklore, please share it with your friends. The best way to support the show is to spread the word. Let others hear these stories. Let them experience the legends for themselves." I checked my podcast platform. The episode was already uploaded, published at 4:23 a.m., while I was unconscious or asleep or whatever I'd been. It had been live for 3 hours. 47 people had already listened to it. I tried to delete it, but I couldn't make myself click the button. My hand wouldn't do it. I tried to log out of my account, but my fingers typed the wrong password over and over. I tried to close the laptop, but I just sat there, staring at the screen, watching the download numbers increase. 53 people, 61 people, 74 people. I sat there all day, watching the numbers go up. By evening, 230 people had listened to the episode. That night I heard singing again, but this time it wasn't coming from the forest. It was coming from inside my RV, from my own throat. I was singing her song. I couldn't stop. I sang for hours. I recorded myself singing. I uploaded the recordings to my podcast feed as bonus content. More people listened. Some of them sent me messages. They said they loved the episode. They said the singing was beautiful. They said they couldn't stop thinking about it. 3 people said they were planning trips to Kisachi Forest. I wanted to warn them. I tried to type a message telling them not to come, but my fingers typed something else instead. I hope you enjoy the forest as much as I did. It's a beautiful place. You should visit in September, that's when it's best. I watched myself hit send. It's been 4 days now. I'm still at the campground. I haven't left spot 14. I don't think I can. More people have come. 2 arrived yesterday, a couple from Texas. They're staying in spot 9. I watched them set up their tent. They were smiling, excited to be here. They told me they loved my podcast. They especially loved the singing. Last night I heard them humming the melody. This morning they looked different, quieter. They spent an hour just staring at the trees. Tonight I'll sing again. I can feel it coming. The need to sing is stronger every day. Diane was right. I'm hers now. Part of the song, part of the forest. I'm recording this and I'm going to add it to my podcast feed, not as a warning. I can't make it a warning even though I want to. The song won't let me. I'm going to title it The Last Episode, and I'm going to tell people it's a special behind-the-scenes look at what really happened in Kisachi Forest. I'm going to tell them to listen carefully, to really hear the singing, and some of them will. Some of them will listen, and they'll understand, and they'll come here. She's always hungry for more voices. I can't remember my mother's name anymore, or where I grew up, or why I started the podcast in the first place. But I remember the song. I'll always remember the song. If you're listening to this, you'll remember it too. Come back, come back, come back. I'll be waiting. My name is Dean Harper. This happened 2 weeks ago in the Frank Church wilderness of Idaho, and I'm writing this down because I need someone to know what I saw, what I'm still seeing. I've been living off-grid for 3 years now, ever since the divorce and the layoff from the tech company came within the same month. I'm not some doomsday prepper or anti-government type. I just needed space, quiet. The wilderness seemed like the right answer, and for a long time it was. My setup is basic. A 32-foot RV I bought used, parked on a few acres I lease from a rancher who doesn't ask questions as long as I pay cash twice a year. Solar panels on the roof. Propane for heat and cooking. A well I dug myself. I'm about 40 miles from the nearest town, which is really just a gas station and a post office. The Frank Church wilderness spreads out to the north of my property. 3 million acres of nothing. I hunt, I fish, I read, I chop wood. I maintain the RV and the generator I keep as backup. It's simple. It's supposed to be simple. The first time I saw him was October 4th. I keep a log of everything: weather, maintenance, supplies. It's habit from my old job where everything had to be documented. That morning was clear, temperature around 40 degrees. I was splitting wood behind the RV when I got that feeling. You know the one, when you just know someone's watching. I turned around and saw a man standing at the edge of the tree line, maybe 50 yards away. He was just standing there, facing me. I raised my hand to wave, figuring maybe he was a hiker who'd gotten turned around. The wilderness boundary is only about a quarter mile from my spot. He didn't wave back, didn't move at all. I stared at him for probably 30 seconds, then bent down to grab another log. When I looked up again, he was gone. I thought about it while I finished the wood. It bothered me, but I couldn't say exactly why. Maybe because I hadn't heard him leave. The forest floor is loud in autumn. Dry leaves, twigs, that kind of thing. You can hear a deer coming from 100 yards away. That night I heard footsteps outside the RV. I was reading, probably around 11. The sound was distinct, boots on gravel circling from the front of the RV around to the driver's side. I grabbed my rifle and opened the door, flipping on the exterior floodlight I'd rigged up to the solar battery. Nothing. The light illuminated about 40 feet in each direction. Empty. I stood there in my socks and thermal underwear, rifle raised, feeling like an idiot. After 5 minutes, I went back inside and locked the door, checked the windows, all secure. I didn't sleep well. The next morning, I found boot prints in the mud near my water pump. Size 11 or 12, work boots from the tread pattern. Definitely not mine. I wear 10s. The prints came from the direction of the woods, circled the pump, and went back the same way. Someone had been there. I spent an hour following the tracks. They led about 300 yards into the forest, then just stopped. Not at a tree or a rock where someone might have stepped off to hide their trail. They just ended in the middle of a small clearing, like whoever made them had simply ceased to exist. I went back to the RV and got my phone. No service out here, but I keep it charged for emergencies. I can drive 20 minutes to a ridge where I sometimes get a bar or two. I wanted to call the sheriff's office, report a trespasser, but something stopped me. What would I say? Someone walked around my property at night? The prints ended mysteriously? They'd think I was paranoid. Hell, maybe I was. Instead, I decided to drive into town that afternoon. I needed supplies anyway, and I thought maybe I'd ask around about recent hikers in the area, see if anyone had mentioned seeing a camp nearby. The drive takes about an hour on the old logging roads. The truck handled it fine. I'd put good tires on it specifically for this terrain. I listened to a podcast about the Apollo program. Kept my mind off things. Town was dead, like always. I filled up at the gas station and went into the attached convenience store. Marcy was behind the counter. She's probably 60. Been running that place for 30 years. "Dean," she said, looking up from her phone. "Thought you fell off the earth." "Almost did. Need to stock up." I grabbed the essentials: canned goods, coffee, batteries, propane cartridges. While Marcy rang me up, I asked her if she'd seen any unfamiliar vehicles around. Hikers, maybe, or campers. "Funny you mention it," she said. "Sheriff was in here yesterday asking the same thing. Couple of tourists didn't come back from a day hike last week. Up near where you are, actually." My stomach tightened. "They find them?" "Not yet. Probably just got lost and wandered out somewhere else. Happens every year." She handed me my change. "You seen anybody out there?" I hesitated. "Maybe. Guy standing in the trees yesterday morning. Didn't get close enough to talk." Marcy's expression shifted slightly, something in her eyes. "You be careful, Dean. That wilderness has a way of getting into people's heads, especially when you're alone too long." I didn't like the way she said it, like she was talking about something specific. "What do you mean?" She glanced toward the door, then back at me. "There's been stories. Long time back, but stories. Native folks used to say that area was wrong. Bad medicine, they called it. Said things lived in there that weren't quite right. Things. I'm just saying, people go in there and sometimes they don't come out the same. If they come out at all." She bagged my groceries. My advice? You see somebody again, you don't engage. You get in your truck and you come to town. Call the sheriff from here. I thanked her and left. Drove back toward my property with her words circling in my head. Bad medicine. Things that weren't quite right. The sun was setting when I pulled up to the RV. Everything looked normal. I unloaded the supplies, checked the perimeter, didn't see anything unusual, but that feeling was back. The watching feeling. I looked toward the tree line, scanned slowly from left to right. He was there again. Same spot as yesterday, same stance, just standing, watching. This time I didn't wave. I stared back at him, trying to make out details in the fading light. He was wearing dark clothes, a jacket maybe, jeans. Couldn't see his face clearly, but I could tell he was looking right at me. I went inside the RV, locked the door, and grabbed my binoculars. By the time I got back to the window, he was gone. That was October 5th. Over the next 3 days, I saw him 4 more times. Always at dusk. Always at the edge of the trees. Never moving, never approaching. Just standing there. On the 3rd day, I decided to confront him. I'm not an aggressive person, but this was getting ridiculous. Someone was clearly trying to intimidate me, and I wanted to know why. I waited until I saw him. 5:47 p.m., my log says. Then I grabbed my rifle and walked straight toward him. I wasn't planning to shoot anyone. The gun was just for confidence. I covered 30 yards. 40. The man didn't move. At 50 yards, I stopped. He was clearer now in the dying light. Dark jacket, jeans, boots. Tall, maybe 6'2", and his face. His face was wrong. I can't explain it better than that. The proportions were off somehow. The eyes too far apart, or maybe too close together. The mouth too wide. It was like looking at a drawing of a person done by someone who'd only heard humans described but never actually seen one. "Hey," I called out. My voice sounded weak. "This is private property. You need to move on." He didn't respond. Didn't blink. Just stood there with that wrong face staring at me. I raised the rifle, not aiming it, just holding it across my chest. "I'm serious. I'll call the authorities." Nothing. I stood there for probably 2 minutes, which felt like an hour. Then I lowered the rifle and started backing away, slowly, keeping my eyes on him. He still didn't move. When I was 20 yards from the RV, I turned and walked quickly back, got inside, locked the door, went straight to the window. He was gone. I didn't see where he went. I'd only looked away for seconds. That night, I didn't hear footsteps. I heard scratching. It started around midnight. A scraping sound against the metal exterior of the RV, somewhere near the bedroom. Steady, rhythmic, like fingernails, or something like fingernails, dragging along the aluminum siding. I lay in bed, frozen. The rifle was leaning against the nightstand, loaded. I could grab it in seconds, but I couldn't move. The scratching continued. It moved slowly from the bedroom toward the front of the RV, following the exterior wall. I listened to it trace the entire perimeter. It took maybe 10 minutes to complete the circuit, then it stopped. Silence. I stayed in bed until dawn, rifle in my hands, not sleeping. In the morning, I examined the exterior. There were marks, hundreds of them. Thin scratches in the aluminum clustered in bands about 5 feet off the ground. They ran around the entire RV in a continuous line. That's when I decided to leave. I'm not a coward. I like to think I'm pragmatic. Whatever was happening here, whether it was some psycho playing games or something I didn't want to acknowledge, I didn't need to stay and find out. I'd pack up what I could fit in the truck, abandon the RV, and head south. Maybe Colorado, maybe further. I spent the morning loading supplies, clothes, food, tools, anything essential. The RV would stay. I couldn't tow it with my truck anyway, and honestly, I didn't care anymore. I just wanted to be gone before sunset. Around 2 p.m., I heard the vehicle. It was coming up the logging road, engine loud in the quiet. I stopped loading and watched as a Jeep Cherokee appeared around the bend. It was covered in mud, one headlight broken. It pulled up next to my truck and a woman got out. She was maybe 30, athletic build, wearing hiking gear that looked expensive. Her face was pale, and she moved stiffly, like she was hurt. "Thank God," she said when she saw me. "I've been driving for hours. My phone's dead and I'm completely lost." I approached cautiously. "Where are you trying to get to?" "Salmon or McCall. Anywhere with people." She leaned against the Jeep. "My husband and I were camping near the wilderness boundary 4 days ago. He went for a hike and didn't come back. I tried to find him, called the rangers, but..." She trailed off. "I just need to get somewhere I can get help." I felt cold. "What did your husband look like?" She frowned. "Why?" "Just answer." "Tall, 6'2", dark hair. He was wearing a black jacket and jeans when he left." My mouth went dry. I might have seen him. Her eyes widened. "Where? When?" "Near here. Yesterday, but..." I stopped. How did I explain this? He was acting strange, just standing in the trees. I tried to talk to him, but he didn't respond. "That doesn't sound like Marcus, he's..." She paused, studying my face. "You're scaring me." "What do you mean he was acting strange?" "Can you show me a picture?" She pulled out her dead phone, frustrated. "Battery's gone, but I can describe him. 6'2", like I said. Brown eyes. Scar on his left cheek from a mountain biking accident. Was his face normal?" She stared at me. What kind of question is that? I realized how insane I sounded. "Never mind. Look, you can use my phone. We need to get up to the ridge where there's service. Call the sheriff." She nodded quickly. "Okay. Yes, thank you." We took my truck. She sat in the passenger seat, quiet, occasionally glancing at me. I kept my eyes on the road. The logging trail up to the ridge was rough, and it took 20 minutes of careful driving to reach the top. When we crested the ridge, I grabbed my phone and checked for signal. 1 bar. Enough. "Here," I said, handing it to her. She took it, started to dial, then stopped. She was looking past me, out the driver's side window toward the tree line below. "Dean," she said quietly. "Is that him?" I turned. Down the slope, maybe 100 yards away, a figure stood among the pines. Dark jacket, tall, facing us. "I think so," I said. She rolled down her window. "Marcus!" she screamed. "Marcus, it's me!" The figure didn't move. "Why isn't he responding?" Her voice was breaking. "Marcus!" I watched him through the windshield. Even from this distance, something was wrong. The way he stood, too still, too rigid. "Maybe he can't hear you," I said, but I didn't believe it. She opened the door. "I'm going down there." I grabbed her arm. "Wait. That's my husband. Just wait, let me go first." I got out, leaving the engine running, started down the slope toward the figure. The woman, I realized I hadn't even asked her name, stayed by the truck, watching. As I got closer, the wrongness became more apparent. The proportions were off. The stance was too rigid. And that face, even partially shadowed by the trees, I could see it wasn't right. At 50 feet, I stopped. "Marcus?" No response. "Your wife is here. She's been looking for you." Nothing. Just that blank, wrong stare I heard running behind me. The woman had left the truck. She was coming down the slope, moving fast, calling her husband's name. "Stop," I said, but she ignored me. She ran past me, closing the distance. 40 feet, 30, 20. The figure's mouth opened. I can't describe the sound that came out. It wasn't words. It wasn't any noise a human throat could make. It was wet and clicking and multi-layered, like several voices speaking at once, all of them wrong. The woman stopped dead. "Marcus?" The figure took a step forward, then another. Its movements were jerky, mechanical, like someone learning how to walk. "That's not your husband," I said. "We need to go. Now." But she was frozen, staring at the thing wearing her husband's face and clothes. It kept walking toward her, joints bending at angles that weren't quite right. I grabbed her arm and pulled. She resisted at first, then something in her broke and she let me drag her backward up the slope. The figure followed. Not running, just walking in that horrible, stuttering gait. We reached the truck. I shoved her toward the passenger side and got behind the wheel, threw it in reverse and floored it, spinning rocks and dirt as we backed up the ridge. The figure stood there watching us go. As we crested the ridge and started down the other side, I looked in the rearview mirror. There were more of them now. 5 or 6 standing in a line among the trees. All tall, all still, all watching. The woman was crying. I focused on driving, getting us back to my property. We needed to get out of here entirely, but I had gear at the RV I couldn't leave behind. When we pulled up, everything looked normal. Late afternoon sun casting long shadows. My half-loaded truck bed, the RV with its scratched sides. "Stay here," I said. "I need to grab a few more things, then we're leaving." She nodded, not speaking. Her face was completely white. I got out and headed for the RV. The door was open. I'd locked it. I was certain I'd locked it. I approached slowly, rifle raised, pushed the door wider with the barrel. Inside, everything was wrong. The furniture had been rearranged. My books were on the floor, pages torn out and scattered. The bed was stripped, sheets piled in the corner, and on the walls, scratched into the paneling, were symbols. Crude, repetitive patterns that hurt to look at. I backed out and returned to the truck. The woman was gone. "Hey," I called. "Where are you?" No answer. I circled the truck. Her door was open. No sign of her. I checked the truck bed under the vehicle. Nothing. This isn't funny. We need to go. The woods were quiet. That wrong kind of quiet where even the birds don't make noise. I got back in the truck, started the engine. I wasn't waiting. She could hide if she wanted. I was leaving. As I started to pull away, I saw her, standing at the tree line, same spot where I'd seen the man. Marcus, whatever it was. She was just standing there, facing me, her posture rigid, face blank. I put the truck in park, leaned out the window. "Come on, let's go." She didn't move. I watched her for 30 seconds. The light was fading, dusk coming on fast. Then she raised her hand, not waving, just raised it, palm out, finger spread, held it there. My stomach turned over. That wasn't a natural gesture, wasn't a human gesture. I put the truck in drive and left. Didn't look back. I drove straight through to McCall, 3 hours of logging roads and highway in the dark. Pulled into the sheriff's office at 9 p.m. The deputy on duty listened to my story, took notes, didn't say much. He called in 2 other deputies and they all listened again. "So let me get this straight," the first deputy said. "You saw a man standing in the woods near your property multiple times. Then a woman showed up claiming to be his wife. You drove her up to the ridge, saw the man again, and she ran off?" "She didn't run off. She was in my truck, then she wasn't. Then I saw her standing in the trees, acting like the man." They exchanged looks. "Mr. Harper, how long have you been living alone out there?" I knew where this was going. 3 years. And I'm not crazy. Check the missing hikers. Check if anyone named Marcus has been reported missing. They did. There was a report. Marcus and Jennifer Holloway, tourist from Oregon, missing since October 2nd. Description matched. The deputy showed me their photo. Jennifer was the woman who'd gotten in my truck. "We'll send a search team out at first light," the deputy said. "In the meantime, I'd advise you to stay in town." I got a room at the motel, didn't sleep, kept the lights on and the door chained. The search team found my RV the next morning, found the scratches, the rearranged furniture, the symbols. They found Jennifer's Jeep. They didn't find Jennifer, they didn't find Marcus. They searched for 3 days, covered 20 square miles, used dogs and a helicopter. Found nothing. The sheriff came to see me on the 4th day, told me they were suspending the search, said I was free to go back to my property if I wanted, but they'd be keeping an eye on the area. I didn't go back. I stayed in McCall for a week, trying to figure out what to do. My money wouldn't last forever in a motel. I needed to make a decision. On October 15th, I drove back, just to get my stuff. I'd sell the property, sell the RV if I could, and move on. Start over somewhere else. When I pulled up, the RV looked untouched. No new damage. The scratches were still there, but nothing had been disturbed since the sheriff's team left. I spent 2 hours loading everything I could: clothes, tools, books, my laptop, piled it all in the truck bed and covered it with a tarp. As I was finishing, I noticed something: my woodpile behind the RV. It was arranged differently. The logs I'd split were stacked in a new pattern. Neat, precise, too precise. I walked over slowly. Got closer. They weren't just stacked. They were arranged, deliberately, in shapes. The same symbols I'd seen scratched inside the RV. I heard a twig snap behind me. Turned fast. Nothing there, just trees. Afternoon sunlight filtering through the pines. Then I saw them, in the shadows. Multiple figures standing back in the forest, barely visible. 5, 6, maybe more, all watching. One of them stepped forward into the light. It was Jennifer, or it looked like Jennifer. Same hiking clothes, same dark hair. But her face was wrong now. Proportions off. Eyes too wide, mouth too thin. She raised her hand, palm out, fingers spread. The others did the same. A line of figures with wrong faces and impossible postures, all making the same gesture. I got in my truck. Started the engine. They didn't move. Just stood there, hands raised, watching me leave. I drove back to McCall, returned to the sheriff's office, told them what I'd seen. The deputy sighed, told me he'd send someone to check it out. They didn't find anything. No figures, no symbols in the woodpile, just my RV and my property, exactly as I'd left it. "You sure you saw what you think you saw?" the deputy asked. I didn't answer. That was 11 days ago. I'm staying in the motel, running out of money. I should leave, go somewhere far away, start over. But I can't, because last night I saw her, Jennifer, or something wearing Jennifer's face, standing across the street from the motel. Same wrong proportions, same rigid posture. She was holding her hand up, palm out, fingers spread. When I looked again, she was gone. I'm writing this down because I need people to know. I need documentation. The sheriff thinks I'm losing it. Maybe he's right. Maybe 3 years alone in the woods did something to my head. But I don't think so. I think something is in those woods, in the Frank Church wilderness. Something that takes people. Something that wears them. Something that watches. And I think it followed me here. Because last night I heard scratching outside my motel room door. That same rhythmic scraping, like fingernails on metal. It went on for 10 minutes, tracing the perimeter of the door frame. In the morning, there were marks, thin scratches in the paint. Tonight I'm leaving. I don't know where. Somewhere far from here. Somewhere with people and lights and noise. But I keep thinking about something Marcy said. About people going into that wilderness and not coming out the same. What if I already didn't come out the same? What if I came back wrong? I've started noticing things. The way my reflection moves in the bathroom mirror. It's probably nothing, just paranoia. But sometimes, just for a second, I swear it doesn't move quite right. The proportions seem off. The eyes too far apart. Or too close together. I don't know anymore. Last night I raised my hand to turn off the lamp. When I looked down, my palm was facing out. Fingers spread. I don't remember positioning it that way. It's probably nothing. I'm leaving tonight. Getting in my truck and driving until I hit an ocean. Whichever direction gets me there first. But I keep thinking about those figures. Standing in a line. Watching. Waiting. Hands raised. And I keep wondering, what if they weren't saying goodbye? What if they were saying hello? What if they were welcoming me? I just looked in the mirror. My face looks normal. I think it looks normal. It's hard to tell anymore. I should go now. Pack the truck. Get moving before dark. But first I need to stand here a moment, just stand here and think. I find myself standing a lot now, just standing. Facing windows. Facing doors. Facing mirrors. Just standing. Watching. It feels right. It feels like what I'm supposed to do. I can hear someone walking outside my door. Footsteps. Stopping. Starting. Circling the building. I should check. I should look out the window, but I know what I'll see. Someone standing there, facing the room, hands raised, palm out, fingers spread, waiting for me to join them. And the thing that scares me most, is that I want to. I want to go stand with them. Stand in the line. Raise my hands. Watch and wait. It would be so much easier than running. So much simpler than trying to pretend everything's okay. Maybe this is what happened to Marcus. To Jennifer. To whoever else went into those woods and didn't come back the same. Maybe they realized it was easier to stop fighting. Easier to just stand and watch and wait. My hand is raised right now. I didn't realize I'd lifted it, palm out, fingers spread. It feels natural. It feels right. I should lower it. I should finish packing. I should leave, but I'm just going to stand here a moment longer. Just stand here